Joining me today, I'm Julie Castle, CEO of Best Friends Animal Society, is the iconic John Garcia, and Meryl. And Meryl is one of our Vicktory dogs, and you might remember Michael Vick's fighting dog case with the 22 dogs that came to the sanctuary. And John Garcia was one of the people who flew out to Washington, D.C. to start assessing these dogs. And John, tell us a little bit about that experience and what you went through and how you first met Meryl.
So, first of all, I just have to say how incredibly lucky I was to be a part of this. From the first second I heard about it, I was like, I really want to be a part of this. So I was very lucky. I was part of the first assessment team to go down. And we were going down and we were assessing several dogs because we weren't quite sure who we were going to take. We knew we were going to take, the more difficult ones. And when we got down there, I kept asking, well, who's the difficult ones? Is there anybody that's going to give me any issues since I was the handler? And they said, oh, wait till you meet Meryl. Wait till you meet Meryl.
Because Meryl was deemed one of the most difficult.
Exactly,
right?
yeah, the most difficult actually. And a lot of it just was, she had insecurity issues. And so when I first met Meryl, actually it is on tape. It's on the Nat Geo series, and that was the first time I met her. And so when I met her, I immediately recognized she had barrier frustration, and she wasn't necessarily acting, in a negative way towards me. So I was able to leash her up. We took her out. We did the assessment, and I read her like a book. She was so easy to read. She was such a good girl, and she has come so far.
She's amazing. Look at her.
Yeah.
So of all of Michael Vick's dogs, from that case, there were 47 dogs.
Yep.
We took 22. Best Friends Animal Society took 22. Meryl was deemed the most aggressive. And look at Meryl today, and that is a lot of love and care, and also recognizing what the main issue was, which is barrier aggression. So tell folks what that means exactly, John.
Well, a lot of the times, dogs are frustrated because they can't either get to you or they can't do something, and so they outlet it in different ways. And unfortunately, a lot of the way dogs communicate can somewhat be offensive to humans, if you think about it. Like a growl, A lot of people punish dogs for growls, when in reality, they're telling us, hey, back off, I'm not comfortable. So when we were doing these assessments, it was very interesting because we had a lot of other rescue organizations that were watching. And they really didn't understand at first what they were getting into, and so they were apprehensive about taking these dogs because of the high profileness of it, but also because, they had heard fighting dogs, they must be vicious, this, that, and the other, which is usually the opposite. Usually they're, having issues with dogs, but not humans. But because they watched those videos or those assessments, we were able to place several of those dogs into those rescue organizations.
And that's so cool, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. And what was really cool is the people that were the most apprehensive about taking on this endeavor and about, not knowing if they could actually work with these dogs and things like that. We gave them our information. They were on the phone with us every day for months, and we had no problem with that. It was actually really, really cool.
So I think that's a super important point, is to talk about the role that these dogs played in the history of our movement. When you think about it, before the Michael Vick dogs, before the Vicktory dogs, all dogs that were in Fight Bus, typically by local governments, were deemed too aggressive to survive, so they were summarily killed.
Yep.
And this case was different because this was the first case. It was so high profile that they decided to do an assessment, and the assessment was done of these dogs, and there were only 2 dogs that were considered basically too aggressive to live, and all the rest went to rescue groups, foster homes, or Best Friends Animal Society. And the reason this is so important is because today, now every fight bust is analyzed and assessed. And it changed the rules forever for these types of dogs. And for those of you that have this kind of dog or have interacted with this kind of dog, you know how special they are. And so I think in the place of history, when you think about John Garcia and all the work that all the employees did at Best Friends to help these dogs, it really changed the course of history. And so I want to talk about the early days here, because I remember when that plane landed and all the carriers came out, and it was such an exciting moment. And our staff jumped in.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah,
they said,
yeah.
look, we're brave enough to do sleepovers with these dogs. So I want to memorialize some of those photos with you guys, because we have a really sweet photo of Ed Fritz, who spent the night.
The little red girl.
And a lot of our staff did this, but this is Ed and Little Red.
Yep.
And I didn't mean to rhyme them, but they do rhyme.
Okay.
But tell us a little bit about that, John. The first days, like, were you guys nervous?
Yeah.
Were you excited?
So-
What were your feelings behind that?
All of the above. Well, first of all, the flight back was actually quite interesting, because here we are in this, cargo plane, and we get all the dogs loaded, and the pilot was super cool. He's like, takeoff and landing, just let me know, but you can do whatever you need to, because I told him I'm doing visual checks every 30 minutes just to make sure. I'm in this little jump seat, and I'm not afraid of heights or planes or anything like that, but I have to say it was a little unnerving. And so I'm going through and checking with my flashlight, and half the time the dogs are like, why are you waking me up, dude? Like, I was asleep, So they actually took to the plane much easier than I did. So I was there about a month and a half prior to that transport, to get them used to crates, have them establish bonds with like myself and another caregiver, so that way we can transfer those relationships when we got back to the sanctuary. And Meryl was a classic example of that. But I will never ever forget when we got everybody out and we got them into their preferts and their runs, because we had to separate everything and build actual enclosures, because we just didn't have that many runs at the time, new runs for these dogs. And it was like this magical moment where all of a sudden dog bowls are being thrown in the air and buckets are being played with, literally.
Right?
And
they were like,
this
is what life is.
And you could feel
so cool.
the collective sigh, and everybody was so happy. You heard squeaky toys everywhere, and these dogs didn't play with toys before that, so they were just so happy. And that is by far probably one of my favorite days of my life.
I mean, and it just kind of shows they never really had a life.
Yeah.
They had a life of torture, and here they come to this amazing sanctuary in southern Utah, and they just hit the jackpot. And so they obviously deserved it. And I want to share some photos of the early days when Ann Allums was doing agility training with Meryl in particular, and it's just really some spectacular moments here. So, you look at this and you think, okay, Meryl was deemed the most aggressive of all of Michael Vick's dogs. And one of the reasons we're talking about them today is because Meryl is actually the last survivor here at the sanctuary of these dogs. And it's kind of an iconic moment for us, even though we have 3 dogs who have been adopted into homes. Shadow, Cherry, and who else do we have that's still out there? Shadow and Cherry.
And
Squeaker. And so we have 3 dogs who are in adoptive homes, but Meryl is the one remaining dog here at the sanctuary. And it's really amazing to see how far they've come and just the incredible impact that they've made. And the truth is, most of these dogs found homes.
Oh yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. Like, we only had a few that had to remain here
correct.
because they were court ordered to remain, right?
Yeah, so once we initially got them, we had a kind of a tiered system, and there was 1, 2s, and 3s. So 1, basically, it was the easier to adopt out. 2 required, 1, they could get CGC or Canine Good Citizen in the home. 2, they had to have it before they went to the home. 6 months foster before adoption, then adoption, plus follow-ups. A trainer went out for a week and worked with them. I mean, we made sure that and really we do that with every dog almost, pretty much, to a certain degree. But for the first 6 months, we slept with these guys to not only get an idea of their personalities, where best to, what best home they need to go to, but also to get them those requirements in order to be adopted. I remember Georgia, for instance, my girl.
So Georgia, so at this moment in time, we'll wait. But Georgia was your favorite, I think, right?
I hate to
So-
say it. I don't like playing favorites, but yeah, she's
So
my
this
girl.
is Georgia. Georgia was
Yeah.
like your sidekick for years.
Oh,
Every time
yeah.
I saw you, Georgia was with you, riding around with you.
It was funny because I was the fun uncle. Like,
We did training, we worked, we did a lot of stuff, but whenever I was the one that would come and we'd just have fun, you know. So she'd go back to the caregivers and be like and kind of like snob them a little bit, you know.
I was with John Garcia all day, right?
No.
That's exactly what you were saying.
The true stars of the animals, we're co-stars. but yeah, no, she stole my heart literally from the first second I touched her. We did during the assessment. We do a series of handling, approaching, different things to do. Snapshot in time of that dog with that person, that kind of thing. And as soon as I touched her, she looked up at me and gave me the biggest, wettest, sloppiest Georgia kiss ever. And it was over from there. She was my girl. I just loved her to death. But I can't stress this enough. I mean, the staff did so much work with her, and we're just absolutely amazing. I mean, she's the only dog that has been in the Andes Hotel, the Beverly Hills Hilton, some of the most high-class places that I felt incredibly
She started to get
comfortable.
snobby.
Yep.
No more Hampton Inns.
It was all blue M&Ms and Evian water. But no,
Exactly.
she ended up going into an amazing home, and it was so hard because I would have adopted her in a heartbeat, but this home gave her so much more I ever could.
Well,
it's tough.
Yeah, and I think, it just shows the special care that you guys provided, and that you continue to provide here at the sanctuary and all of our staff, the individual care for the animals. And it's a really, this is one of those moments we'll look back on and say, it was truly iconic. And I think I want to talk a little bit about Lucas right now.
Oh, absolutely.
And Lucas was the grand champion. So tell us what that means. What is a grand champion exactly?
So essentially,
And-
Lucas and Georgia were the only two that we had any history on because he had actually purchased them. So Lucas was his grand champion, which I'm not entirely sure how many fights that would be, but I was told it was roughly around 30, which is insane. Lucas was the most kind-hearted individual, and he was an individual. He was just such a nice dog with people, and because of his history, we didn't want to take any chances. But Lucas and Meryl were both were the only two that were to remain at the sanctuary for life. And I have to say,
And just remind everyone why that is.
Oh, because of Lucas's history. So being the 5-time grand champion, there's a lot of dog fighters out there who would do very bad things to get a hold of a dog like that. And so they felt that Lucas would be safer here with us. And I have to say, it sounds bad when you say like they have to stay at the sanctuary. I can't tell you how much enrichment and how much fun Meryl has on a daily basis. I can't give my dogs a quarter of what they get here at the sanctuary. I'm not even joking either. From golf cart rides to puzzles to toys to love to everything. So this is a better home than I could give her at my house, basically. So I don't feel bad. I think she loves it here, and she has amazing staff members taking care of her.
So I'm going to put on my Lucas hat in honor of the grand champion because he was such an iconic dog. And my memories of Lucas are, he was at the village.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I
virtually
mentioned that.
every day.
Yep.
And the village is sort of this communal lunchroom area that we have for visitors that come to the sanctuary. And here's this grand champion that was in this fighting ring, greeting all these visitors coming through the door, and just like to look at his face and how scarred up it was from all of those fights. And you think about what that guy went through, and here he is like giving loves and kisses to all these visitors that come in to the village lunchroom, and he would just hang out in the offices there.
Yeah.
And run around and
Yeah.
greet everyone, and just a really, really, really cool dog
Yeah.
who was with us for many years. And so, you know, you think about these dogs and what they went through, and I think the adjective is resilience.
It is,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
So tell us about that, because you've seen the worst of the worst for animals, what they've been through, and then they come here and they just have this incredible resilience. So,
They do.
So tell us about what that means to you and what you've seen.
I mean, to me, honestly, I've seen people get, I've said this before, I see people get frazzled and their whole day is ruined because of their drive to work. You know, I mean, here these dogs are fighting for their lives, but they still look to us for love and attention. You know, they're still, you know, it's mind-boggling to me that we went for so many years killing animals that in dogs from fighting rings that are puppies, you know, because they are of a certain strain or because they were exposed to this or that or the other. It's just ridiculous. So these guys have literally saved countless lives. I mean, and it's continuing to go, and it will continue to go. And their legacy will never, ever stop. I mean, I still to this day, I think of each and every one of them. I mean, and the homes that we found, I can't even begin to describe how cool they are. I know we have a photo of Cherry. So Cherry's home, and this is the cutest thing in the world. So Cherry was adopted out, and Cherry ended up adopting his own kitty. I believe it was in one of the magazines, but they had gotten a kitty, and Cherry would sit there and nurse it. So he would groom the kitty, and he would sleep with the kitty, and it was like the most cutest thing in the world. Cherry was the most kind-hearted dog I've met in a very long time. Unfortunately, he had been through a lot, and you could tell he hadn't had a lot of socialization, so he was very shy when we first got him. In fact, he was the one that Michelle Weaver and I had to work with in terms of getting him just to walk on leash. And in order to do that, we had to find basically an avenue, and we're very creative here. And so, we used the trick of, okay, we'll give you a solid side so you feel safe on one side. I got your back on this side. And once the trust was there, we were able to go just light years. I mean, and the last time I saw Cherry, his people, he's got a baby. He lives with a baby, or now a toddler probably. So I mean, it's just, and like I said, the families are just so awesome. And my heart goes out to all the families that lost their animals, but at the same time, they gave them. Sorry. They gave me good life.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think about, the 22 dogs, and, we sent many of them to homes, and the ones that are still with us, Shadow, Squeaker, and Cherry, I mean, they have the best life ever right now.
Oh, yeah.
And, Meryl, I think, Meryl has an amazing life at the sanctuary. You talk about how Meryl may have better care here than in your home.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't, that's sort of a toss-up, I think.
No.
Because John Garcia's home would be an amazing place for a dog.
Dude.
So,
No.
it's a pretty special place, and these are really special dogs.
They are.
And I know, they made a big impact on this organization, and not just Best Friends, but the entire movement.
And the entire world.
The entire world.
Literally.
So true.
I mean, they are universal dogs.
Okay, I love that. Universal dogs.
They are universal savers.
And I think on, this Giving Tuesday, I would love for all of you to think about the work that happens, not only here at the sanctuary and the special care that we give animals like this, but at all of our life-saving centers around the country, because all animals are individuals. Every single animal is special to us. They all have a soul and a spirit, and they're all so giving and resilient. And we would love to ask you to give today on Giving Tuesday, because every time you give, it will be matched dollar for dollar. And it truly is one of our biggest days of the year for donations. Mm-hmm. And it helps dogs like Meryl live her life here, where she's really, really happy and has one of the greatest lives ever now, coming from such a tragic situation. So, I think John Garcia if you want to talk a little bit about Giving Tuesday and what it means to you and this organization and the dogs that you care for.
I can't thank everybody enough who does give on, especially on a Giving Tuesday. Being able to have those donations matched, it gives us the ability to do so much more with the animals and to get them into their forever homes, you know, and to also, you know, give dogs like Meryl even more fun. So that way we can think of more ideas and develop new techniques and help other groups. And I mean, there's just so many things to, I mean, we gotta hit, I mean, we're gonna hit 2025, but in order to do that, we have to work together. We have to work together to save them all. That's just the way it goes. So I just think it's inspirational that we have such great examples of, you know, what can be done. And the sky's the limit. I mean, it's the universe is the limit. I mean, it's unfortunate when, you know, if minds are closed, we want to open those up, you know, and get people thinking that, you know, these are living beings. They're sentient. They're our best friends.
They're our best friends. Yeah.
All of the animals are, not just dogs, but especially these guys who've gone through just so much. And again, you know, one thing that I did that blew me away, and I still to this day is just the weirdest thing. But like, you saw the photo of Little Red and Ed and how much scarring she had on her face. Her scars literally and metaphorically went away.
Yeah,
when we did our Vic Dog reunion, it was amazing because when I first met Little Red, she was hiding in the back of this dark, you know, animal control run, and it's not like it was in a bad shape or anything. It was just dark in the back, and that's where she felt comfortable. She was scared, and when she came up to me the first day, she gave me that little side grin, and I was like, oh, that is so cute, you know, because I smiled, and then she's like, oh, you like me? Oh, thank you. And ever since then, you know, once we built that relationship, she went from that to literally strutting around during the
oh
no, and she did it too. She was, and I think on the back she had a hot pink sweater that said Diva or something like that. But all of her scars went away on her nose. Not all. I mean, they didn't go away, but they diminished to the point where when I first met her, her whole muzzle was a scar. Literally, I've never. I mean, it was atrocious.
And I mean, just to meet her and a dog like Cherry, and you're scratching your head thinking these were Michael Vick's fighting dogs, and it was insane. These poor animals to have been put through that, and I remember meeting Little Red for the first time and thinking, yeah, Little Red, like what a sweet little dog, just like Cherry, and you know, to see how much they've recovered and rebounded, and it's just a really special thing. And John, you're no longer in Dogtown, but you're helping animals, dogs and cats all over the country for the organization now.
Yeah, I try to do as much as I can as far as training, and I'm always, I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, once Dogtown, always Dogtown.
Exactly, but you're like the universal trainer now of people and animals, I think. So.
In my opinion, everybody's a trainer.
Okay.
If you walk by a dog, you're training them. If they hear your voice, you're training them.
That's true.
So every interaction that we have, every behavior that they see us do, they're learning from us. They're reading us more than we're reading them. Unfortunately.
Well, fortunately sometimes.
Fortunately, yeah. It would just be nicer if we read them and communicated a little bit better. But yeah. But no, it's been just an amazing experience so far, and I still get choked up thinking about some of the experiences in the past. But like I said, it's changed everything. And the one thing about change is it's either going to stick or it's not, and it's stuck. You know, and that to me was just absolutely amazing because I didn't think that they were gonna, you know, hold up to that for that long, but all the groups are. And I mean, I hear time and time again people from other groups thanking us, saying thank you for doing that, because now we don't euthanize these animals.
Exactly.
Now they get placed into homes, you know. And I still get it's inspirational. It really is.
It was the truest form of demonstration. I mean, it was demonstrating to the world that these lives matter, that these animals are retrievable from even the biggest horrors that humans inflict on them, and that this is a real possibility that these animals could and should be saved. And I think it really did. It did change the world as you sat there ambassadors to the world. So again, on Giving Tuesday, this is the type of care and love that's provided here at Best Friends Animal Sanctuary and Best Friends Animal Society all over the country. We are really grateful to you, all of our members and supporters, and everyone that follows us on Facebook, all of our social channels. We could not do this work without you. We would not survive without you. And so it means a lot to us that you're willing to give, and we would hope that you would give today on Giving Tuesday, because all of your donations are matched, so it's like a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
And you're helping dogs like Meryl live out her best life. You're helping people like John Garcia really spread the message far and wide. And we're just super grateful to you, and we really hope you have a great holiday season. And thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.